Have you ever come across an exciting event unfolding on the streets only to end up with photographs that are all a bit boring and samey? No matter what you do, all your photos seem to come out a bit like a commercial photo shoot and lack that kind of street photography feel to them, and you might even skip photographing events because of it. If that sounds a bit like you, then it can be a real shame because there's a long and celebrated history of street photographers documenting events in exciting ways, and you should really be part of the experience too and have the confidence to document them in your own unique way. I've photographed a lot of events as a street photographer over the past year or so, and not only are they fun, great opportunities to practice street photography, but they're also really important cultural experiences to document, which is why it's so valuable to capture them well. So if you don't capture events already, or maybe you've not been too happy with the results last time you went to one, in this video I'm going to share my best street photography tips on how to get the most out of photographing an event, show you why they're so powerful to improve your street photography skills, and also hopefully give you some different perspectives to explore next time you hit up an event with your camera. So let's get right into it. So why should you bother photographing events as a street photographer? Well, there are many reasons why you should document public events such as parades, carnivals, festivals, protests, performances, and so on. Firstly, events are perfect places to practice your street photography skills, as no one really minds having their photograph being taken, so you can be bold and get closer than you usually might, especially as a beginner. You generally have more time in an event too, so you don't need to worry so much about missing fleeting moments, because if you miss one, it's likely to occur again soon anyway, as long as you're observant. And this also gives you the opportunity to experiment, obviously make mistakes, but also successes through trial and error. And finally, in my opinion, events can be historic, and it's really important to document what happens to create a record of the cultural moments that occur in our time, but also to add your work to the mix of the long and celebrated history of street photographers documenting events. So how exactly do you get great street photographs at an event that don't look all the same? Well, next I'm going to give you 8 tips that have really helped me go from average event photos to ones that I'm really proud of. Top tip number 1, get there early. It's no use rocking up to an event just as it kicks off, finding yourself right at the back of the crowds, fighting your way through, trying to get a shot. Getting to an event early means you have time to get your bearings and photograph people getting ready, or even just people on the way to the festivities. Photographing people getting ready for an event or milling about waiting for the fun to kick off often gives you the chance to capture fun, unguarded moments, which you wouldn't have access to if you rocked up later on. For example, I captured this photo before the Restore Nature Now protests kicked off in central London at the beginning of summer. I went to where everyone was congregating for the parade to start and captured this great little human moment that I wouldn't have seen if I'd just focused on the parade. I also went to Notting Hill Carnival this year, but made sure I arrived well before the parade kicked off, giving me access to it up close and the opportunity to capture some unguarded moments of performers getting ready, which I think work really well. These kinds of images can work really well as part of a series, as a story of the full experience of the day, and that's something we'll discuss a little bit later on in the video. But the parade often isn't usually the most interesting bit of an event to photograph, which is where the next tip comes in. It can be all too tempting to turn our lens on the colourful main parade of an event, but this can often mean that we end up with the same long lens photos of a parade passing by as everyone else. Those photos often lack an emotional or immersive aspect. Instead, my advice is to turn your lens to the crowd. What people are doing in the crowd or who are milling about around the fringes of the event can make for far more captivating photos than the event itself. I recommend getting right into the action with a wider lens such as a 28, 35 or even a 50mm lens to really give an immersive feeling to your street photography, rather than just sniping off shots from far away on a long lens that can take the intimacy away from the viewer's experience. It's always best to spend some time being really observant. Look at the way crowds are moving, try and look ahead of you and see if any interesting characters are coming towards you that you might be able to capture by timing it right and getting into the right position. For example, here I turned the camera on the crowd. I saw someone in an eye-catching outfit and waited for the right moment to snap the shutter. I really enjoy the playfulness in this photo. I got lucky with the wink and I think it really makes the photo work, along with the colours and an obvious funny outfit. If I wasn't looking at the crowd and trying to see a focal point of a potential photo, then I would have completely missed this one. Also, in this photo, rather than focus on the parade, I spent a lot of time just walking through the crowd at the edge of the parade to see if I could get a shot of people enjoying themselves, and I think this one really captures the mood of the day. But photos of people watching a parade can often be as uninteresting as photos of the parade itself, so that's why the next thing is super important to include too. We've all seen average looking event photos of smiling families and parade marchers, but the best event photographs, at least the ones that stick in my mind, are the ones that show some kind of emotion candidly. If you can use your street skills at an event to still capture unguarded moments of emotion, then you'll have a great chance of making powerful images. Look for tender moments of love or joy, or even anger and sadness depending on what kind of event you're photographing, and this will give you a great chance for a captivating photo from an event. This photo, for example, is one of my favourites from the Brighton Pride event recently, which I only noticed because I was searching for moments of emotion. It's a passionate kiss that encapsulates the love and joy of the day. This image from Notting Hill Carnival is all about emotion. I saw the scene unfolding and waited for the right moment to press the shutter and to try and convey the spirit of the moment. And this image from SantaCon last year is just a joyous, fun photo that to me sums up the whole day. But what makes this photo work for me, along with the composition, is the expression on the face of the main character. Just the right moment to capture the emotion. It can be all too easy at an event to get the same sort of image over and over. For example, a lot of photos of colourful performers dancing through the street. But the best way to ensure that you don't come away with loads of images with the same idea over and over is to think of making a series. When you're photographing an event, it can be all too easy to constantly search for that one standout image. And to be fair, events give a great opportunity to capture that one standout photo. However, events are also layered and have a lot of elements to them, and that's another reason why it pays off to think of a series rather than a single image. Think about how your photos might complement each other to tell a wider story of the day if you see them in a series. Look for some epic hero images, sure, but also think about capturing details. Something left on the pavement, a tattoo or face paint, a hand holding a flag, someone dancing on a pole. Also wider shots, people on a roof, a crowd with all their hands in the air. A mix of perspectives, angles and framing in your photos from the day will make a much more compelling story when viewed as a series and help you make a more diverse collection of work from one event. If you're enjoying this video, by the way, please hit the like button as it really helps with the algorithm to spread it to more people to enjoy. It can be very easy at an event to get wrapped up in the emotions of it all and just fire off your camera at anything and everything that is happening around you. But this is unlikely to result in exciting images, and it's really important to focus and don't forget about composition. Events have so much going on all the time that they can also give you the opportunity to work a little bit slower and get more creative with your composition than perhaps you'd usually have time for on a normal day on the street. I'm not going to get into composition in detail here, but just have it in the back of your mind next time you're photographing an event. Think about how you can elevate your photos of the great things you're seeing by trying to capture them in the most compelling way possible. One really simple but effective way of doing this is by trying out some creative framing and subframing in your shots to add depth and complexity. For example, here, rather than capture a front-on photo of this person's outfit, I made the creative choice to use the wings of the outfit from the back to frame their head, which has resulted in a kind of abstract image that I really enjoy, and it's a bit different to the usual event photographs you see. And in this photo here, I decided to get close to this person dancing on the postbox rather than stand further away and capture all of the scene. Up close, it leaves out information, which I think makes it more powerful. I used the arm holding the leg to act as a focal point, which also splits the photo in two and creates balance. It's all about action and limbs and legs and hands in the air, and I even got lucky with this guy's tattoo, which also has an arm on it. It's not your usual composition, and that's one of the reasons why I think this photo stands out from the crowd. But what if you're not at an event very long and you don't have time to focus on composition or making a series of images? So what if you've just stumbled on an event by accident, or perhaps you only have half an hour or so free to try and get some shots? In that case, forget about trying to document the whole thing through a series of images, and instead focus on getting one or two interesting shots from the event. One way of making a great photo from an event more powerful is by getting rid of the context and show the photo at a later date. If you only have time to make one image, try and capture something from the event that's a little bit unusual or weird, and don't include the context of where it was taken. Once viewed without knowing it was taken at an event, this can then prompt more questions from a viewer, and it makes a more powerful photo. As the Magnum photographer Richard Calver has put it so well before, context is the enemy. And I discussed this concept in more detail in this video, which I'll put up here or somewhere in the description below. For example, in this photo you see a man dressed in what looks like a camouflage sniper's outfit outside a block of flats on a phone. Weird, right? There's no context to explain what's going on, which to me is what makes it an interesting photo. When I tell you it's someone that's just walked out of a parade and up some steps to get a better view, I give the photo context and it loses a bit of what made it interesting in the first place. In this photo, I intentionally left out any contextual information other than a sense of place with the crowd. But as this guy is the only one in the scene dressed up as a Christmas tree without context, it makes it a more engaging image than if I just captured him along with all the other people dressed up for Christmas out of frame at the SantaCon event last year. Lack of context makes it more interesting. But if you do have a bit more time at an event, or perhaps you've maybe run out of creative ideas, the next tip will really help you give variety to your work and also a focus of what to capture when you've hit a bit of a lull. Now, hear me out on this one, as I know street portraits aren't for everyone, but there's a couple of really good reasons why you should definitely seek out portraits at the events you photograph. Firstly, it helps build your confidence. Speaking to people, asking if you can take their photo really helps get you into the groove on the street, and it gives you exposure and confidence photographing people in public, especially if you're a beginner. At an event, people are usually more than happy to have their portrait taken, so this will mean less people saying no to you, which again will really help build your confidence, which we know is really important on the street. You can try getting up close or stand further away to include more of the environment, but either way, if you can improve your portrait skills, this will really level up your event photography game. Secondly, portraits really help round off a series of photos from any event. They can tell a strong story if you pick your subject well, and then when you show them alongside more candid photos in a series, this can really help elevate your images from an event that you're documenting. Just remember to take more than one photo when you're shooting a portrait if you can, and try different angles or compositions too. I'll definitely do a video on street portraits on this channel soon. The next tip though is arguably the most important one for getting amazing street photos at an event. Events are usually fun and light-hearted. Even protests can be very moving and can be enjoyable in a way, so it's important to just enjoy the experience as much as trying to document it. Street photography at its best comes from instinct and gut feeling, so the more you loosen up and just enjoy the process rather than focusing too hard on getting amazing photos, the better photos you'll actually end up getting anyway. Get wrapped up in the event, interact with people, talk with them, take the portrait, have a dance, smile and enjoy yourself. If you're having a good time, it's likely to show in your event photos. While events can offer up great photo opportunities, you might still feel a little bit stuck on how to improve your street photography in general. So that's where this video comes in, where I reveal my top tips from 6 years of street photography. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.